Remember, we got like 10 seconds.
Yep. I'm smart, actually.
Welcome to Edge of the Rabbit Hole. I am Mike Ricksecker, and with me as always is Vanessa Hogle, and of course our chat shenanigator, Shana, down in the chat room. We have a great show on tap tonight, and Vanessa, I'm really excited about this one. This is more... You and Shana have the expertise on this one, if you want to call it expertise. Never say there's no expert. But moon phases and other astronomical phenomena related to the paranormal.
I mean, it's more skeptical and believers and all skeptical when it comes to this stuff. Because, you know, are things that we believe in and things where we're just not quite that sure. I don't have my opinions on this.
And we are going to get into all of those. Let's go ahead and hit the chat room real quick, see who is in town tonight. This is a special Monday edition of Edge of the Rabbit Hole because of the holiday tomorrow, 4th of July. So we don't know who's going to be able to make it. A lot of people are on vacation doing something with family and what have you. But we wanted to at least make it on a day that wasn't the holiday. So who's down in the chat tonight? We've got Tammy Sifford, of course, Shana, our chat shenanigator. And then Diane Hilbert, Veronica Flores, thanks for joining us tonight. Danella Daywood Love, thank you. Joanne Rubino, thanks for joining us again. Charlie Scott, hello there. Donna Gordon, Tammy Sifford are two of our Cheshire cats. They're doing a lot of help these days behind the scenes with Hogle Media and Edge of the Rabbit Hole. Let's see what else we got. Tammy Heisman is in there, and then Tina Olzak. Thank you very much for joining us this evening. All right, so let's get into a little bit. Everybody's telling me, oh, that stupid button came off again. There, I'll click it again. I don't know why that keeps unchecking. But yeah, there was echo again, and there it is. Everybody's yelling at me about echo.
Let's see if it's better now.
Yeah, it'll be better. I know it'll be better now. There's this one button that keeps coming unchecked. I'm gonna have to put it on the checklist and make sure that it stays checked. So sorry about that, everybody. All right, let's get to a little bit of housekeeping here. I'll get the list. Okay, logo art contest. July 15th is the deadline for that. So anybody that has come up with a logo, and remember, it's kind of, I'll put it up here on the screen if you can actually see that. And let me raise. Okay, there we go. Kind of like that. We got the road and then shadow guy here. You know, be creative. Do what you'd like. I'm thinking, maybe a tree or something here. I don't know. Throw some suggestions out there. Be a better artist than me, please. And so July 15th for that. And the perks include, of course, we're going to do an interview with you, and we'll talk about what inspired the art and all of that, and your history in art and stuff like that. Of course, you get a T-shirt and a ghostie. Of course, these are always available on HunterRunMedia.com. But whoever wins the logo contest will get those things. Okay, so I'm gonna flip here. What else do we have? I forgot to do this last week because I think we were just so excited to have Bernice on the show. Jimmy Cortez had surgery, and so we just want to send some positive energy out to Jimmy Cortez. Make sure he's healing up well.
Hi, Jimmy.
Yeah, and so Jimmy, I know if you're not in there tonight, you'll catch us at some point. So I hope you're doing well, Jimmy. Also, I want to thank our patrons out at Patreon.com. So that's patreon.com/HauntedRoadMedia. Got some interesting stuff out there, some behind-the-scenes stuff and things like that. We're doing a Q&A video and a lot of interesting different things. There's book discounts and all that stuff. So Deborah Watford from the UK want to throw a thank you out to Deborah for being a new patron. Another deadline, July 31st for the Encounters with the Paranormal Book 3. And that's going to help. Yeah, Vanessa, you got less than a month now. My voice just cracked. Wow, my voice just cracked. I had a 2-hour interview last night, and I pre-recorded an hour interview earlier today, so my voice might be a little bad tonight. So July 31st for those stories. And that's really, whatever your personal paranormal encounter that you'd like to share, we'll put that into Encounters with Paranormal 3, which is part of the proceeds are going to help support the old Mineral Springs Hotel. It's known as the Mineral Springs Mall now, but I like to refer to it as the old name. Because when people think of mall, they think, big, huge shopping center or whatever. This isn't. This is within an old hotel that was built on top of a mineral spring. So it's very, very cool. Very historic location. So, it'll help that, and then for you personally, you'll get a free copy of the book plus access to author discounts, which is cool. And then there's one more thing. Nope, that was it. Okay. So let's get into
here that I'm back in my dining room. So if anybody sees anything, to let me know.
Yep. Vanessa's back in the dining room, so
yeah.
her guy might show up now. Before, when you were in the dining room, you were at a different angle, so it was like he was always kind of peering at you through doorways and stuff, so we'll see what happens this time around.
I'm trying, but we already had the lights flickering, so, yeah.
Yep, lights flickering. I thought she was having a storm was encroaching. We might have Vanessa disconnect on us, but no, it might be her guy.
Yeah, no storm.
Oh, and I'm drinking the green tea again. I've been trying to do the other side. I've been trying to do the green tea more at night than coffee, instead of doing coffee at night, because I can drink coffee like all day long, which, even though it's supposed to be better for my liver than most other things, it's probably not good to have caffeine that late at night. So
it isn't. It isn't at all. It's good.
It's good. All right. Well, let's go ahead and get into our subject for tonight, which is moon phases and the paranormal. I actually have we'll do this. Here's the moon phases. Nice little chart of all the different moon phases. And I believe we are in the waxing gibbous right now, so we're encroaching on a full moon. Vanessa, there's a lot of theories, and kind of like from our experiences, I think that we've had, we like to say, we've had our fair share of more active investigations and more active paranormal activity, with something like a full moon. And I'll kind of throw this at you a little bit, because we were kind of talking beforehand. You're a little bit more educated on it, and I actually have a argument from somebody else against it. We'll get into that in a little bit, but go ahead, chime in. So moon power, and Donald Gordon saying yes, full moon power, and Shauna's make sure we know full moon is coming up on the July 9th. Hey, it's my sister's birthday, so
yay.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is just my viewpoint on it. I am by no means claiming to be an expert, but it isn't that I necessarily think that there is more paranormal activity during a full moon. What I do believe, however, is that we are more susceptible to paranormal activity when it's a full moon. It's just, we've all, heard the stories from cops that must be a full moon out there. Or, I'm in the medical profession. I can always tell you when it's going to be a full moon because damn. Okay.
Well, yeah, and like I was saying before the show, with this, I kind of always defer to my mother on it. She was, you worked in the school system for 30 years, and she could always tell when it was going to be a full moon coming up, because the kids would start going crazy, And it is where we get the word lunatic from.
Absolutely, and it's true. And you and I discussed it that the moon controls the tides. Tides are water. We're mostly water. Right. It just makes sense. It really does just make sense. That having been said, spirits are water. So I think that might negate a little bit of the idea that it increases paranormal activity. But I do believe that it makes us more open. that it might control our reactions, that it might open up our third eye, it might, change the frequency of our aura. There are so many different variables that I think that it's something that needs to be looked further into. I was looking back on the calendar when you and I were talking before the show started, and noted the fact that the last time I was in Virginia was right around the full moon, and shit went down. So it wouldn't surprise me. Then you and I also discussed, any practicing pagans or Wiccans out there. We rely heavily on the moon and its cycles. When it comes to divination, spell crafting, anything that has to do with our particular path in life. So if we use those practices while we're paranormal investigating, then it is definitely going to be affected by what phase of the moon we're in. Are we waxing? Are we full? Are we waning? Are we new?
Right.
And what our purpose is and what we're trying to get.
Yeah. I guess when, it comes to, the physical aspect, the biological aspect, okay, we're mostly water, and, spirits, of course, do not have that anymore, but it's, the moon's effect on water, not necessarily that, we're made of water or the water out there, it has to do with gravity. And so, does gravity, still play into the spiritual realm at all? You watch it, and I know it's fictional. You watch the movie. Oh shoot. Now the name is escaping me. Damn it. Shoot. Why can't I think of it right now? The one Matthew McConaughey, where they were out in space and they went into all the different dimensions and all that stuff.
The one he was in it with she was at Silence of the Lambs with Jodie Foster.
No, Jodie Foster wasn't in that. It was Anne Hathaway. In any case, the whole premise of the movie is gravity crossing dimensions and being able to affect matter, across dimensions. So, and I do believe in some of these interdimensional theories. So if gravity can affect interdimensionally, then it may be able to affect the spirits as well, not just us. So maybe both of us.
Well, I mean, that's actually, it's a really good point, and it makes you wonder.
Interstellar, yes. Okay. Thank you, Adam. Adam Tiller in the house. And I know he knows too, because he and I both own the soundtrack to that movie.
I swear Matthew McConaughey was in one with Jodie Foster too.
Oh, he probably was.
Yeah. But it makes you wonder, does it make communication for spirits easier? Does it make it to where does it give them extra power, make them able to move objects? Does it, allow for a better physical presence? It does make you wonder. It's something that we can't possibly have the answers to, but I would be very interested to know, and those in our chat who do, investigate on a regular basis, have they found this plays a part in it? I mean, it does in all other aspects. I mean, you'll find it in the Farmer's Almanac when they're talking about planting your fields and everything else. So it just stands to
and
reason.
I'm a big advocate for the Farmer's Almanac, because a lot of things in this world work cyclically, and so the Farmer's Almanac, for hundreds of years they've been keeping track of when these things happen. It's all a pattern. It's all a pattern. So don't get me started on global warming, because it's all a pattern. And so that's why the Farmer's Almanac is so accurate, because they've been keeping track for so long. And so the moon cycles and all that are within there too. So I got one for Shana and my mother for Christmas.
Did you really?
I did.
That's so a you gift.
Yeah.
That really is. That is so a you gift. That's awesome. But yeah, I'm curious. I'm looking on the chat here and seeing, if anybody has any ideas, if someone's having trouble buffering, but like I said, that's been my experience. Is that
Shana went to go get some chocolate. Hey, you better be sending some chocolate this way.
Hey, who went to get chocolate?
Our chat Shananigator stepped out to get chocolate.
No, see, that ain't even right.
No, there's something wrong there.
I'm going to have to go get some after the show. But
that's a show foul. That's a show foul right there.
A little bit. But no, it's been my experience that because I go into situations the way that I do, with my particular belief system, that it can play a part. It wasn't so much in England because I was coming home on the full moon, but when I was in Virginia, it was quite extensive activity, and it definitely opened me up. And I would say the same for Gwen because she's a practicing Wiccan herself. So, I mean, I would love to know if anyone else has noticed those same situations with their investigations.
Yeah, we'd really like to get an idea of, patterns and what other people's experiences are. I know Shana was saying that, they had a really crazy investigation. It was a Friday the 13th on the blood moon. It was a full blood moon. So, so that's pretty crazy there. Now, I would say the blood moon would play more into that than Friday the 13th, because Friday the 13th was just when, if you go back into history, as really just when the Knights Templars were all assassinated, so it became a very bad day because of that. So,
bit of trivia for you, totally off the subject, but one of the days that they were killed, that they were burned, was on December Friday the 13th.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. It all happened on Friday the 13th. Yeah, it all happened on Friday the 13th.
My son was born on December Friday the 13th, and our family on my dad's side they were part of the Knights Templar that actually opened up one of the first non-denominational churches in Scotland.
Wow. Okay.
Isn't that crazy?
That's pretty well. Oh, she said it wasn't a blood moon, it was a super moon. I'm sorry, I thought you told me blood moon earlier in our chat that we had earlier. Sorry.
Well, even better.
Whatever. Super moon,
but
blood moon.
You and I were talking about
I think they're related.
So
I think they're related.
Yeah. I was asking you, I mean, it's just a very simple question, one that people don't think of, but I asked you, if you were going to go out and investigate, and you had basically two choices. Go out new moon, go out full moon. Which one are you going to pick?
Full moon, of course.
Thank you.
Of course. It's kind of logical. So that said, let's bring in the opposing argument.
I want to hear this. And
this is from, I got this off of somebody's article, but they're quoting Rosemary Ellen Guiley, which, she's written over like 50 books. She's very well respected in the field. I've met her. She's a very nice woman. But this is her quote. She says, the full moon actually produces geophysical effects that may indeed dampen paranormal activity. The Earth expands 1/16 of an inch during the full moon's gravitational pull. The expansion is caused by the movement of magma chambers below the Earth's surface. These movements affect the Earth's magnetic fields. Many paranormal hotspots are in the areas of negative magnetic anomalies. Thus, an increase in magnetic fields is likely to have an adverse impact on paranormal activity. So, I get where she's trying to draw that kind of logic by saying, okay, these magnetic fields are changing, and so therefore it should have a different effect on paranormal activity. But that same magnetic field, right, if it's going to affect things so greatly that way, I would think that they would also affect the water and the tides the same way, because it's all related. I mean, that's what's happening to Earth. That's why the tides end up changing like that. And so I would think if you're going to say the change of magnetic fields is going to cancel all this stuff out, it would also cancel out what's going on with the water, with the tides.
Well, and
that's why it's happening.
I'm going to. I hate to state the obvious, but like I said, I'm going to.
Okay.
To assume that the full moon changes to know that the full moon changes the magnetic fields therefore may cancel out paranormal activity, is to assume that you know what frequency paranormal activity actually occurs on. And if you know what frequency it occurs on, then you have proven paranormal activity, which is a scientific thing then. Scientists will go out of their way to disprove paranormal activity. So if you're going to use a scientific reason to cancels it out, then you in fact have to acknowledge that it exists. So is that not a contradiction in terms?
You would think so. You would think that kind of contradicts. I mean, yeah. I mean, to me, the logic that she's presenting with magnetic fields contradicts what actually happens with the Earth's pole with the water, among other things on the planet. It is related to gravity, which affects many things on the planet, including us. So I would think that if you're going to use the argument of the magnetic fields, cancels that out, it's going to cancel out these what's happening to us and the water and all that too. So
yeah,
I'm not a scientist, but
Ditto. I'm not a scientist at all, but I find it fascinating that someone would use that argument and say that it possibly would cancel out, and I'm saying possibly because I can't remember if you said that or not, that it would possibly cancel out paranormal activity, to me is really presumptuous, because they go, like I said, they go out of their way to try to prove it doesn't exist. So how could they, in the same breath, say that it does exist and this cancels it out and we can prove it, or whatever. That just doesn't sound, something about that just doesn't seem right to me. And I, like I said, not a scientist, not a specialist, not an expert, not nothing. But I don't think you can have one opinion without also having the other.
Right. I have an interesting comment in the. I have an interesting comment in the chat room. Deborah Ouellette. Deborah. I've seen your name a million times, but I'm not sure how to pronounce it. It's Ouellette. So I'm going to say Ouellette. She says, as a medium, I've talked to spirits on the other side. We've never discussed this subject. It would be interesting to see what spirits' comments would be. So, what about you, Vanessa? As a medium, have you ever had this type of discussion with spirits on the other side before?
It would be very interesting, and I'm actually going to do that now.
Okay.
I have not at this point. But like I said, when I have asked them about heaven or hell and they tell me it doesn't exist, that gets a really weird response from people.
Yeah.
So, it would be very interesting to see what they would say for this particular subject, but I can guarantee I'm going to ask. I will definitely ask, because she's absolutely right.
Yeah.
That would be something that we need to be asking them. Then again, maybe they won't tell us. I don't know, but it's like Tammy Heitzman said, I get what you're saying, Vanessa. It's like believing in Satan but not God for Christians.
Yeah.
Exactly. Or believing in angels and not demons. You can't have it both ways. You can't have your cake, Shana, and eat it too. I stuck that in there with the chocolate.
Yep, chocolate. You just got to pass some around here.
I know, right?
Yeah, because now I'm craving it. And I know what she went to go get too. She went to get that Dove dark chocolate. That's what she loves to eat. I sent her a whole box of Dove chocolate bars one time.
You're so sweet.
In any case, she did say, she threw out there, for anyone to say 100% without a doubt that something is certain, they can't do that. Nothing is certain. We're all guessing here and basing opinions and theories on our personal experiences, which is true. Anything with the paranormal is a theory.
Absolutely.
There's nothing exact here. There's no science behind it, because you can't, with a scientific experiment, you have to, make things repeat over and over and over and over again. You can't do that with the paranormal because you can't make it happen on demand. So.
Exactly. As much as people like to think it does, or as much as shows like to act like it does.
Yeah.
Yeah, not so much. Not so much. Donna Gordon put, as mediums, we're dealing with specific things usually, so not to ask basic philosophical questions. And that's true, Donna. That's true. But I just might have to ask one of those philosophical questions the next time around. I just have to give it a go.
Well,
maybe put on Alaska, New York.
Let's get into. I'm going to throw it out here because it's related. Mercury retrograde, and I've got the what happens out in the solar system as far as like the way the Earth's orbit, the Mercury's orbit moves, and basically what's going on with the times of the retrograde is because Mercury has blown by the Earth because it rotates so much faster around the sun than the Earth does. Its position in the sky looks as if it is moving in reverse during this time. It's actually not. It's just the way it appears. But during that time, there's, for whatever reason, there's a lot of crazy shit happening here on Earth. So that's like a time where you shouldn't be making big decisions and all that. I guess the question of why, why does it work like that? Why shouldn't we be doing these different things during this time? It happens like 3 or 4 times a year.
Well, because Mercury is basically, I'm going to use the wrong words for this, and someone's going to correct me, trust me.
Right.
But Mercury is what's responsible for communication. And when you have electronic devices, big decisions to make, contracts to sign, anything like that, you're not really supposed to do that during those times because there is a large possibility or high possibility of there being a miscommunication, of there being a misunderstanding. You don't get your words across right, they don't get their words across right, whatever, But with Mercury being the, our symbolism and our, oh shit, y'all know I'm getting this wrong, putting it out there, but it's basically our thing of communication, and it does affect it. I'm a living, breathing proof right here. So, and as I'm sure everybody else has had, difficulties and problems with that. Do I think that could affect communication with spirit? I think it could. Maybe not on their end, but on ours. Again, I can't say what would affect them, but I know, to a certain degree what affects us as living, breathing human beings. And if we're affected, by something like that, just in the communication between each other, who's to say that, it's not affecting how we understand and communicate with them as well? I think it possibly would.
Well, I mean, I certainly think that, if it's affecting us to any sort of degree, then yeah, certainly it would affect the way we're able to communicate with, with those spirits. But again, to me, I think it still comes down to whatever is going on with. I'm guessing it's a gravitational thing, or I don't know. Maybe it's the way that Mercury being in that path of between the sun and the Earth, is that affecting like solar flares and things like that when you get those flares that come out from the sun and end up hitting the Earth and smacking against the ionosphere and affecting a lot of things down here on Earth, like weather and temperature and all that. But that also affects us too. But again, you're talking about charged particles coming from the biggest source of energy in our solar system. I would have to imagine that would also affect the spirits on Earth. And if Mercury being in that path, whether it's going frontward, backward, whichever direction, if that's affecting those flares, I would imagine it would also have to affect the the spirits down here on Earth as well.
Well, and another thing, and you just made me think of it, just because of what you were just talking about, and this little ring right here that I've got on, and I guess this one right here too. When you're talking about what's going on in space and how it affects us and everything, the ring that I have on my right hand is Moldavite. And that is from the Moldau Valley, where a meteor actually crashed into it about 20,000 years ago, give or take, and the air and minerals around it crystallized. And that is what is in this ring. I just went digging for diamonds and crystals and stuff like that, and I have stuff from that dig, and that's holding on to that energy it's been buried in the earth, and that came from out there. just like this did, So I'm taking a long way around it, but it makes me wonder. We've also tossed around the idea that maybe one of the realms is outer space.
Right. Well, and see, Donald Gordon says if it can affect us from that far away, I believe she's talking about Mercury, then why not the moon? And that's a great point. We talk about the Mercury retrograde all the time. Like I said, 3 to 4 times a year. So if we're acknowledging that's a phenomenon that affects us, then why not the moon affecting? If that's that argument
against. Know which realm they live in, which plane they live in. None of us know that. We have no way of being experts in that. So to me, it just stands to reason that it very well could have something to do with it. I mean, like I said, you and I have also stated on this show and on other ones that one of the realms might be another planet. It might be outer space. We might hippity hop over there, when we pass away. So, and by the way, Mercury isn't the only planet to go retrograde. So,
well, that's true. There's also a Mars and a Venus retrograde.
So, I mean, you have to look at all those different things. And it makes you wonder, does a lunar eclipse affect paranormal activity or communication with it? Does a solar eclipse affect it? All of these different things, I mean, they have to, on some level, play some part in it. They really do. To me, it would be Mike, you need to get on this. You need to write a book on this. Start doing the research. Okay, you've got time.
Oh, yeah, I got all kinds of time. Right. I think I'm supposed to be doing a shadow person book now from all the shadow person interviews I've had lately. So, yeah, I'll get right on the, the lunar and all the retrogrades and all of that stuff, yeah.
After you edit my book.
Yes, I have to edit your book first, of course.
I had to do that to you,
Of course. But, I mean, yeah, you're talking about, large celestial bodies that all have their own gravitational force, that all have some sort of, effect on the energy within the solar system. You have to understand that, each body within our solar system has a symbiotic relationship with each other. What happens with one will affect the other. So these are all energies that are, they're spinning around at, speeds that we can't even fathom. I mean, we look at it as like, okay, it takes a day, but really, they're spinning extremely fast. This is energy that is being built up within each one of these bodies, and they're all affecting each other. Again, and so we're talking energy here, and so that's going to have an effect on, like I said, I don't believe just us, but also on these spirits. Is going to affect their energy as well. Whatever plane that they're in, plane of existence, our energy touches their energy. At times we've all experienced that. Spirit comes up on you, you're feeling that. Okay, you're feeling their energy. So if the sun is also affecting me, if its energy is affecting me, or Mercury's energy is affecting me, or the moon's energy is affecting me, well, it's also has to be affecting this person's energy too, because I'm feeling it. I'm feeling them.
Now here's another good point, and I think Andrew put something down here kind of about it. We're assuming that when we talk about paranormal activity that we're only talking about ghosts. There's other types of paranormal activity. There's astral travel, okay? Which, I know that people have had experiences with that, and they've landed in places that defy explanation. And when you have people across the globe who can recite the same type of situation, but it's a place that in our general world doesn't exist, that means it might exist somewhere out there. It would be interesting, to know if, when those happened. Did they happen during one of those phases? Was it another planet that they traveled to? There's all different kinds of of questions that this brings up. It isn't just about, can I feel the ghost sitting next to me a little bit better during this time? It's all different types of paranormal activity, which, yet again, I'm going to state it again, paranormal only means alongside normal.
Right. Right.
What it means, that is the definition of the word, is alongside normal. So if it isn't something that happens in normal daily existence, whether it happens with a ghost or not, it is paranormal. So that we really need to keep the definitions proper right here, you know, when we talk about something like this, and realize it's not just about ghosts.
Right. Everybody may be hearing the fireworks that are going on outside.
Joe, you know, just put something on there about
lots of booms and bangs and all that. Yeah, nothing I can do about it. Sometimes you guys hear the train. It's like just a mile down the road. Now it's the fireworks. So, Lynn's White asked, does gravity have anything to do with energy? Well, I mean, they are related. You know, the gravitational force is, you know, a type of, I don't want to say it's a type of energy. I mean, they are two different things, but they're related. Because, you know, gravity, I mean, you think of something, you know, kind of like all the depictions, you know, you get something spinning, and it creates a gravitational force that pulls things into it. But it takes an energy to make that thing spin. So they're all related.
Yeah, energy is energy. You know, it just depends on how it's delivered. But yeah, everybody's talking about fireworks now.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I'm not getting shot at. I'm, you know.
Always good to know.
Yeah.
Always good to know. Yeah, they were setting them off in Gwen's neighborhood last night at about 1 o'clock in the morning. If it was me, I'd have been out there with a damn shotgun.
No. Oh, they started right when it hit midnight, July 1st. They were out there firing them off. So. Yeah.
I mean,
if I had a baby in the household, I would have been out there and be like, hey, you guys need to knock it off. You're waking up the baby. But I don't.
Exactly right. Now I wonder. And you and I talked about this before the show started. Those who live in coastal regions or near large bodies of water, you know, and how Lee has talked about, you know, being able to get certain spirit communication through water. It makes me wonder, is there any documentation or any records, so to speak, of those areas, and do they have a higher level of paranormal activity, UFO activity, Bigfoot sightings, whatever you want to call it, anything again along the side of normal during, you know, particular moon phases. I think that would be something really interesting to look up and maybe check into. It could be just more fuel for the fire for the conversation to see, you know, if in fact you could almost prove it that way.
Right. We do have a question from the chat room. Is that a ghostie staring at the Mad Hatters from the couch? Yes, it is a ghostie. And I think the question is, you see that? I need a ghostie. Tell me, can I buy one? Yes, you can. You can buy one. It's available at Haunted-Road-Media.com. Just click into the shop. Actually, on the left-hand bar, you'll see the picture for ghostie. You can click on that too. And that is from AT2 or AT2.
I was just going to say
AT2. Whichever way you pronounce it. But yes, to answer your question. Yep, that's ghostie. And I just knocked him down. He is the Haunted Road Media mascot. So, and he also has a Facebook page, facebook.com/GhostieHRM, and we encourage people to take their selfies with Ghostie, and we post them out there. We also do a Where's Ghostie game. So Ghostie's very cool. If you don't have one, you need to get one.
Ghostie likes pizza.
Yep, that's Ghostie likes pizza. All right.
Story.
So that is our midway point of the show, blatant self-promotion. Thank you for encouraging that AT2.
We actually went a little later.
It did. It's a little past that. And thank you, Shana and Lynn's, for saying go to Haunted Road Media. So, Yeah, the website and all that stuff. There you go.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
my
and
God.
Shauna's got all the stuff right there. Yep.
Yeah,
Thank you,
10
Chat
nights been
Shananigator.
posted with an optional sock. I'm not doing it. I'm not laughing.
And yeah, optional sock. I need to find a sock. Where is the sock? Oh, I gotta find one.
Yeah, my purple polka dotted one's in the wash.
Yes.
Anyway.
Yes. He needs his socks for all of his ectogasms.
Oh, Jesus.
I had to go there.
Kick your ass.
Bring it on.
You need to quit it.
All right.
But okay. I got it. Okay. That's the most action I've got in a while. Ghosty. But no, it makes me again wonder. Again, since we're talking about paranormal alongside normal, and I know that they have websites pertaining to this, and they might not have looked at it in this particular way, but I have a friend who has access to one of, or has an account or something on one of the government UFO websites for sites, and it gives dates and times of when people have recorded them. So that actually would be kind of easy to see if there was any kind of correlation or connection between those types of sightings and the moon phases, Mercury in retrograde, Venus or whatnot, lunar eclipse, all of that stuff. It'd kind of be easy to go on there, because you can just Google it now and say, hey, what was the moon phase for March 2016, because I did it, and we actually might be able to get some information on that.
It's interesting. I think back at an old group that I was involved with years ago. We would put together these documents of the cases, and one of the things that was always on there on the document was the moon phase, and I don't think we ever actually did any correlation of between cases. What was going on. I think we just always looked at that particular case, and it was on there. I was like, okay, there it was. But now thinking back on it, and maybe this is just kind of like experience through the years, we should have done something like that. Actually come up with some metrics of correlating. Okay, what type of activity were we happening during this investigation? What was the moon phase, or was there anything else going on, like Mercury retrograde or Mars or Venus or whatever was going on in the heavens, and see if we could draw some sort of correlation of what was going on in the investigation, between these different phases of celestial bodies.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I believe we said Deborah Roulette. She's going to have to let you know how to say her name. Yeah. She says she believes the Shag Harbor, she says USO, but I think she means UFO, incident happened during a full or possibly new moon period, which I find fascinating. That's something that I'm actually going to look up, because if we can hit some of those websites and actually see some of the documentation and just get the dates, they're not going to have when it was. But if we have the dates, we can find out. Yeah. And that's just more research going, towards a possible answer. I think that's brilliant. I'm so glad you put that on there. I'm
going to have to look back at the last 25 years and.
Can't be that hard. You can Google everything.
Well, you can get. I can Google all the moon stuff. Yeah, it's there. The hard part will be the dates of the investigations.
Not really. You know how Facebook is now? Everybody posts everything.
True.
And it's all in dates, and you can go into Google more than likely. I've got you on my computer and my phone right now, so I can't. But if you could just Google paranormal sightings.
I'm glad our lives are such an open book. I'm glad our lives are such an open book.
It's almost a little bit scary, if I'm gonna lie to you. But yeah, you put in paranormal sightings.
Yes, X group. Hang on a second. Yes, X group home kid. The secret password for tonight is ectogasm.
Oh shit!
If you want to get into the club, that's the password.
You don't want to be part of that club.
I'm gonna use that. I'm gonna use that as a promo code for some books.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Okay, well, yeah. Y'all see, I get on this train of thought, and y'all just
Yep.
toss out the ectogasm, and I hop right off that train. Okay?
Totally annihilated your train of thought. I know, but you know I've got to keep up with what's going on in the chat too. So.
I know. And I apologize for anyone watching if I'm playing with my hair a lot.
Darla says, or a secret handshake. But yes, wash your hand first.
Ew!
The edge of the rabbit hole. We go there. I have to wait for Vanessa to collect herself.
Oh, I need to find a man. Y'all just wrong. You're wrong.
Very wrong.
Oh my goodness. Jeez, guys. Come on now. Oh my goodness.
So Mercury retrograde.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, now what are some other things that happen celestially that might affect that?
But comets.
Okay, I can see that.
I mean, there's always that that old legend that Mark Twain, the year he was born, Halley's Comet, the year he passed away, Halley's Comet, and throughout his life he always talked about and bragged about coming into this world with Halley's Comet, and sure enough he went out. So and that just might be some bit of irony. I mean, I don't usually believe in coincidences, but Halley's Comet is one that we can always rely on coming at a specific period of time. Last came during the early 1980s, so we're not going to see it again for a long time. But does something like that's, you can count on that one, but there's other comets and whatnot. Does a flyby of one of those affect things here on Earth?
I would say that it could. Absolutely. By the way, Deborah said that actually it was meant to be USO. Let me tell her thank you here real quick and tell you what she said. She said, Vanessa, USO stands for Unidentified Submerged Object. The incident involved witnesses seeing a flowing object go from the sky into the water. So that makes more sense to me, and I'm so glad that she corrected me on that. That's interesting. Now, she also, just now that I know what this actually means, real quick, just because it's popping in my head before y'all start getting all perverted on me again, it makes me wonder other sightings that happen in the water or around them, because it is affected by the pulls of the moon and everything. If maybe certain things are more visible due to the tide and the pull of the moon that are water based during those times. You know what I mean? I'm just going to go ahead and jump down that damn hole. Sea creatures, shit like that.
Sure.
It makes you wonder. I know that, to a certain degree, they disproved all the Loch Ness stuff, just because of, people faking and shit like that. They ruined it for everybody.
Yeah.
But
fakers hurt.
But that doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. It's something along those lines.
It may have existed at one time, It may not exist now. It may, there may have been that sighting from a long time ago. Maybe that photo is legit. But maybe that was the last days of the Loch Ness Monster, and it died shortly thereafter. And we don't know.
That does make you wonder. Lee had a lot of issues in his book, from what I've read, dealing with the water. He needs to go back to check out some of those dates and see if there was any correlation.
You never know, there could be, especially since he is so heavily involved with the water. I'm sure he has to look at some of that stuff. He's got to be looking at tide tables and things like that. So, and yes, Carrie Parrish, we do see your posts. So.
But he might not have ever looked at it in a paranormal aspect. You and I have been doing this our whole lives, pretty much, and we never did.
Sure enough.
You know? So, I mean, that's something to think about. I'll have to message him. Not right now, but I will. And just see. And, oh, by the way, there are new people in the chat who have no idea where the ectogasm thing came from.
That's,
Go ahead, Mike. You take it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, the whole ectogasm thing. I mean, that's Shana's story, so she could tell you in the chat. But sorry, the laughing is still affecting me. But basically, that was an investigation of hers at the old cafe in Campsville. It's closed now, so you can't get in. But the show that she was on, or I guess no, that was the never mind. That was Grips of Wrath. But in the cafe, there was an incident where. One of the investigators felt something like that happen to her. I guess there was that sound. You really wanted me to tell the story. It's Shana's story. But there was that sound like on the audio of, and then, so there you go. That's ectogasm.
I'm okay. Oh my gosh. No,
we'll just have to queue up. There's an Edge of the Rabbit Hole episode. I forget what the beginning part of the show was, but you'll see whatever it was and ectogasm. So just look at it. Just into YouTube search. Just look up ectogasm, and you will come across that episode. Watch it. You'll get the whole story.
It's just all kinds wrong.
I'm still laughing, or still coughing from that laugh.
You're still coughing too.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, yeah. But yes, I mean,
So Shana says she's going to get the picture from that day. I've long desired to see the pictures from that day. So please, Shana, we want to see what was going on.
That ghost porn.
It is ghost porn.
It's ghost porn. You know what? We might be on to something. That could be $1 million thing.
Not the type of industry I wanted to get into.
Oh, come on. You know you love it. I'm kidding.
Was that a shadow person? What was that? Shadow people in ectogasm? I can't remember.
I think actually it was.
It may have been.
I think it was.
Shadow. Figures.
That would make
shadow
sense.
People.
Yeah, I think it was because you were talking about the shadow person that had come to the end of your bed.
Yeah.
So I want to say that's true, and we were trying to decide whether or not all shadow people, purely right there, y'all, whether they were all good, all evil, or whatnot.
Right.
Yes, I think it might be. Oh, good gravy. Yeah, that's just damn. Y'all just got me on that one.
Deborah says that we should do a comedy open mic night. I did end up coughing the whole second half.
Well, Act 2 came up with another one. Shit. Shadowgasm.
There you go, shadowgasm. That's not what happened. I was not defiled. Actually, the shadow person just crossed my arms across my body and ran off down the hall. So I was not defiled. It wasn't a shadowgasm. It was just weird.
Not that time.
So, but kind of back on the subject, that kind of makes you wonder, is there perhaps increased activity with something like shadow people, on the night of a full moon, or maybe it's a new moon, whatever, is there some sort of correlation between that type of activity and what's going on with the moon?
I still believe it very well could be. I do, but like I said, I'm going to go ahead and say what I said at the beginning of the show, that I'm not so certain that it increases their activity as much as it increases our acceptance of it and our willingness to acknowledge it, our more openness to it.
Well, I certainly do believe it affects us because a lot of us just go absolutely nutso on the night of full moon, especially young children in school.
Yeah. This gal right here. Yeah, I'm all over the place. During a full moon. I'm pretty open anyway, but I'm wide the fuck open then. So you can ask when. That's a fact. So it wouldn't surprise me one bit.
So your stance is that you believe it affects us, but not so much the spirits. And so, in my stance is going to believe it affects. We can have differences because it's just all theory, and I believe it affects both. Just because I believe that gravitational pull is going to affect. It's going to affect the Earth. It's going to affect the energy on Earth. And I believe that gravity does cross the interdimensional planes and can also affect the spirits and entities on those planes.
Now, I can see that. And like I said, I am by no means an expert in this, nor do I claim to have all the answers. But I can say, without a doubt, that I know, that I know it affects me on a paranormal level. That I know. So that is a guarantee that I can actually say that with knowledge and know that it affects me. But at this point, I don't have any concrete evidence that it affects the other.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean that concrete evidence isn't out there.
Well, sure.
Yeah.
Andrew. Again, it's going to take an hour for me to get rid of this. Andrew asked, "What about full moons and UFOs?"
That's what I was saying.
So, I guess the moon would give them more light to navacate by.
Well, it's for me. I think that it's more of a situation of like you were talking about gravitational pull. Whatever does it make entry here easier? Right. Different kinds of scientific reasoning behind that. But yeah, it's just there's no way to know, but there are ways to possibly research it and just to check and see. Like I said, the website that my friend knows of that has a listing of all the different reports. Right. Check those by day.
Well, yeah, that's what you're saying, that they would have on the UFO reports those correlations. Yeah.
Well, I did find out just a couple 2-3 weeks ago that this same friend, that me, him, and another guy, and none of us knew each other at this time. None of us knew each other. Actually had the same experience with 10-mile radius here in Oklahoma years ago.
So Carrie Parrish is responding to my my statement about gravity. He says, "I don't think gravity changes." I'm not saying gravity changes. I'm saying that gravity has an effect on Earth, has an effect on us, and I believe crosses the different dimensions. So therefore, would have an effect on entities within those other dimensions, just like gravity has an effect on us.
Yeah, I see what you're saying there. Absolutely.
Yeah. I'm not saying gravity changes.
Yeah. Again, we've talked about this a lot. We don't know. We know that there are other realms. There has to be some place for them to be, but we don't know where they are. We don't know how many there are. We don't know, where they come from or where they're going to. We don't know any of that. So it just stands to reason that the best thing to do, even if you disagree with it, is to keep your mind open to the possibility that it can be affected by it. If you believe that it is, you could use that to your advantage. If you're somebody like myself who is not only pagan, but I'm a practicing witch, I use the moon phases and anything else that has to do with it to my advantage. So if it's going to help me get a better communication with whatever is out there, I'm going to use it. And it doesn't really matter whether other people believe in it or not, as long as I do. I mean, it's true. Because what works for you is what works for you. If you believe in it and you feel like you're doing the right thing with it, then...
Right. And Kara's responded back with, but gravity would have to exist in each dimension. The gravity in this dimension wouldn't be present in another, and I absolutely disagree with that. We are currently in 4 different dimensions that we know of. There's the first dimension is a plane, basically flat plane like a line. Okay, that the gravity exists within that dimension too. The second dimension is a line, is a 2-dimensional object, right? I'm sorry. 1 dimension would be a line. 2 dimension would be a plane. 3-dimensional object. Well, here's a 3-dimensional object. There's a 3-dimensional object. 4th dimension is time that we're currently observing from. Gravity is the same within all those dimensions. So for other dimensions, 5th, 6th, 7th, gravity would still exist within those dimensions. So.
Well, and we can't state without a fact that it doesn't exist that we don't know exists. We can't say, well, I haven't seen that, or I don't know what that realm of that dimension is, so it can't exist in that. We can't say that. Unless you've been there and you've been a part of it, you can't say that,
Right, we don't exactly know the other dimensions and how they're observed. I mean, there's theories about, like, being in the 5th dimension that's seeing, the 4th dimension time as a tesseract, which they've kind of built a model of, a 3D object with other kind of 3D objects around it, which I kind of think is a little fudging it. To build a 3D object on top of a 3D object, but the theory is that you would be able to observe time like we observe a 3-dimensional object. So it's an interesting theory, but throughout that, just like through the 4 dimensions that we exist in, that gravity is reactive on each of those types of objects, that it would still continue on upward, that gravity would affect the same throughout.
Agreed.
So that's why I'm saying that a being in another dimension would still be affected by gravity the same way that we are. There you go.
I agree with that. Shit, Mike, we're 2 minutes over.
Yeah, we are. But they always call for extra time.
I know. But I'm actually going to address Kelly here real quick. He put something in here. Dimensions are unique to each universe in which they exist. That may or may not be true. And unless we've visited.
Well, I'm not talking about other universes. I'm talking about the universe that we live in. So.
Yeah. Well, no. What I'm saying on this is that may or may not be true. But if we have not traveled there and been a part of it, we can't say for certain that it doesn't exist any more than we can say that it does. So to automatically assume the negative and say that it doesn't exist, I can't do that.
No.
I'd rather stay open and believe that it does, and until it's proven otherwise to me. To me, it's easier, not easier. To me, it's better to disprove something than it is to have to prove it.
Well,
I ask you for forgiveness instead of permission. I have to stay that open to do what I do.
Ether Shadow says, about 6 days before full moon, I've noticed I'm able to achieve OBEs, out-of-body experience, or astral travel more fluently. And yes, Shana, I will get some tea for this afterwards. She had a whole thing about tea and peppermint and all that stuff within there. I did see all that, so I will.
Yeah, she was telling you to do that.
But so Ether Shadow, 6 days before full moon, notice been able to achieve OB. So according to Ether Shadow, he's experiencing a greater ability to be able to do things of this nature as it gets closer to a full moon. So I guess the same thing would be in the waning as it's going away from the full moon for up to 6 days afterward.
I can totally see that. That's why when we were talking earlier, I said, when we're talking about paranormal, we need to make sure that it's not limited to just ghosts. is anything, again, along the side of normal. And OBEs are definitely that. So it's, like I said, Bigfoot sightings, UFOs, astral travel, OBs, whatever you want to call it. Any one of those things, and it depends on the person too, can be affected by it. I do believe that.
Well, yeah, I mean, I believe we're each affected differently, for sure, because I think we all experience the supernatural and paranormal a little bit differently than each other. I mean, just, Shana and I, for instance, she sees apparitions more than she sees shadows, and I'm the opposite, where I see more shadows than I see apparitions. So we each experience those realms a little differently. So certainly these different things would affect each of us a little differently.
Oh, agreed completely. Yeah, I mean, I can definitely see that. It really, and this is going to sound kind of strange, but it just depends on almost the time of day for me as to what I see more of, what I hear more of, things like that. I don't know if that's just because of internal shielding with work and everything, but it does happen that way. I mean, I don't know if that has, the setting of the sun and the rising of the moon, if that has any effect on that, but I guess it definitely could. It doesn't necessarily have to be full.
So, Joanne Rubino asks, is there an 8th dimension? Physicists, this is from the scientific community, physicists, if I can pronounce things correctly, take it to an atomic level and believe at this point there are 10 dimensions. So, but that gets down to like a very atomic molecular type of level when they get to that point. So, that's scientific theory right now. Again, this is actually theory as far as those other dimensions, but they at this point believe in 10.
Wow.
Yeah.
See, I didn't know that. I need to get some book learning.
So and that's all open to interpretation, debate, because it's actually it goes all into string theory and all that stuff, but it's kind of difficult to be able to prove those other dimensions because we can't access them. So it's all based on theory at this point.
But that's okay. That's how we learn, and that's how we're growing and everything. So I don't have a problem with that. But I am going to start looking into some of the things that we've discussed on here. I'm going to hit a couple of those websites, check some things out, and just see if maybe we can't get something tangible to look at, and see if there's any truth to it. I'm curious. I really want to know. And when I saw what the topic was for this, it had never occurred to me. It never occurred to me to think the two could be related. So thank you for that. Thank you for opening me up to that, because I was just stuck in my own little universe there.
Right.
That's me.
Cool. Well, let's go ahead. It's 10 after. I know your dog probably needs to do its thing. It's usually pretty prompt at about 10:30, well 9:30 your time, to go do its thing. So let's go ahead and wrap it up. Really want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. Check out, look up ectogasm. And it looks like you've come up with about 10 different variations of spellings within the chat. Ectogasm. Just look that one up. I think it was Shadow People and Ectogasm, and Vanessa's gone again. And then by all means, we have a bunch of links down below. Go check them out as far as like how to get Ghosty, how to get the Edge of the Rabbit Hole Mad Hatters t-shirt. All you crazy Mad Hatters out there had a great time tonight. And then the books and everything are in there as well. And also the link for Patreon is in there as well. And there's a lot of cool perks and stuff out there at Patreon, so go check that out. A lot of things will be coming on that too. So it's a very, very cool way to be able to interact with you guys. What else we need? Oh, we gotta do the shout outs. So let's get to the shout outs. So of course, is the chat screen going to come out? There we go. So of course, a fantastic big shout out and thank you to Shana, our chat Shananigator. I can't even talk because of his throat. our chat Shananigator. Thank you, my love. There's Andrew Cox, Danella Daywood, Love, Ether Shadow, Tammy Heitzman, Robert White. Thank you for visiting us from Australia again. At 2, thanks for joining us tonight for your questions, and I hope you, I hope you're all right with ectogasms there. Diane Hilbert, thank you very much as always for joining us. Tammy Heitzman, thank you. Tina Olzak, thank you for joining us. Jen L, thank you. Linz White as well. Donna Gordon, and I know Tammy Sifford was in here earlier. She had to leave. Carrie Parrish, thank you for joining us again tonight. Even though we do differ on opinions there. It happens. It's the paranormal. There's going to be different opinions. Joanne Rubino, thank you for your questions tonight. Who else do we have in here? I know I saw Adam Tillery earlier, so I'll give him a shout out. Our fantastic artist there. Darla Waltz, thank you for joining us this evening. And anybody that I have forgotten, Mary S., thanks for joining us tonight. Deborah Owlett, we're going to have to get your pronunciation from you. Thanks for joining us.
At 2, Ether Shadow.
Did I thought I said Ether Shadow earlier.
Oh, I can remember.
Yeah, I thought he was one of the first ones, but I could be wrong. So Ether Shadow, of course. And I'm scrolling up. So if I missed your name, of course, don't be offended. There's a lot of people in the chat. So, yeah, there's Adam. You were listening the whole time. You're still there? All right. You just went incognito on us. I'm going to have to get that tea. Ah.
Now you have to get that looked at.
No, it's just I started laughing and it irritated my throat.
Okay.
That's all that happened. It was from laughing, seriously. Oh, Shauna's book, Lamb over there, oh my god, I started busting the gut reading that thing, and this happened where I had to stop reading it because I was laughing so much and I just started coughing for an hour. So,
it's okay.
Yep.
But I do need to go walk my little girl.
Long L Mike, so I have it right. Okay, that's Deborah. Long, is that it? I guess it's an L. Long L Mike, so I have it right. Okay, you see that?
I've already taken it off the chat.
Okay. We'll figure it out. So, okay, well, here's the moon one last time. Isn't that cool looking? I like that moon. It's pretty.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. Oh, I think we both need rest.
Yeah, definitely. So, for everybody in America, I know we have some from overseas, but everybody in America, have a happy and safe holiday tomorrow. This was a special Monday edition of the show. We'll be back to Tuesday nights next week. So Tuesday night, 9:30 p.m., we're going to have Andrea Perrin on. So that's going to be a great show. Andrea is a fantastic friend, and she's always wonderful to talk to. So,
she's a beautiful woman.
She is. So, looking forward to that. If I can make it through this one. Yeah, and for everybody overseas, we thank you for coming out. We had to do this one today because the holiday tomorrow, nobody's going to be on. So we do appreciate those that were able to come out today. We know that some weren't able to make it out, because they're busy with family and friends in doing what you do. It's a holiday, so yeah. All right, that's going to wrap it up. Everybody have a great one. Until next time.
Bye.